I hate this thing.
What?
I don't know, it's just pretentious.
Too cheesy?
Yeah, it's too much.
I think it looks good. It looks good in the videos.
Yeah. It's going to catch fire one day behind our heads. Welcome to the Boardcast again. Episode we don't know because we don't know what order they're in. Very special guest today, Beau Mitchell, the head of the Australian Olympic Skateboarding program, head coach.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
Thanks for coming.
You're right.
So can you just give us a brief intro to your career in up until this point, like in surfing and skating, and how you ended up as the head coach of the Olympic skateboarding team?
So I suppose it's a bit of a journey, to be honest. I started skateboarding first, and then quickly realized that, the thing that I was gravitating towards was just pushing myself and in any board sport. So I skated with Shane Azar back in the day and stuff, and then I found surfing. And back then, I had some, I suppose, tricky family stuff going on, and surfing kind of gave me an avenue out. But I always skated, and I tried to do everything that I did as hard as I possibly could, and had a career as a professional surfer. And but I always stayed connected with all of the skaters, and I actually felt more comfortable in that skate industry and around the skaters than I kind of did with the surfers. And so when I stopped competing surfing, and I essentially could afford to get hurt with skating, which you do a lot, I definitely pushed it a lot more once I'd retired from competing surfing. And my natural want to help people, and that's not just in skating, snowboarding, surfing, in everything that I do. I can always see an opportunity to go from point A to point B and what needs to be worked on to get there. So the skills that I suppose acquired through that process, my coach was a world champion. I got to live with him for years. His name was Barton Lynch, and he did the same thing. He helped lots of different athletes. And so I kind of was able to learn those skills with him and through him. And when the whole Olympic thing started, I was just doing skate coaching up at the local skate park, and then helping with Shane Azar, helping try and encourage these young skaters that had skills and had ability, and try and turn it somewhat into a career path. That's right. With skating, there wasn't really a pathway. And
not at all.
Yeah.
The rider convergence thing.
Rider convergence.
Right.
So we used to take
forgotten about that.
Yeah, we used to take kids away on camp, and we'd go away for a week. Some of them would take the surfboards, some of them would take the skateboards, but it was essentially board riders all in a van together, and we all coexisted, got along, and helped each other with whatever we were doing. And so through that process, I met Liv Lovelace, who is a team rider of yours, and Shane was helping her and coaching her. And then he kind of let me, I was helping her as well along the line when his work got really busy. And then he kind of sort of said, "Oh, look, you're great at this, go for it." And so then she was going for the first Olympics, and then here I am because of the process of kind of getting to know all of the skaters and then working with the skaters on their journey. I suppose there's one thing that with this program and with this, what I'm doing, my goal is and has never been about medals. My goal is and will always be about helping each one of these skateboarders be the best they possibly can be and create a pathway for a career. Through that, they may win medals, but coaches never win medals. We are sitting in the sidelines. So for me, if their absolute best that they could potentially get is 10th, great.
Yeah.
If their best is 25th, great. But if that opens up avenues for them as a career path, I did my job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess like that leads me to probably the question that gets me the most about the whole Olympic skateboarding thing is how do you take, like Liv was a skateboarder first. I've known Liv since she was a little kid. She's as much a skater in mentality as anyone I've ever met. How do you turn that into an athlete? Not just Liv, but how do you take that skateboarder mentality, which I know isn't an athletic mentality? How do you take that and train it to be an Olympian? Like, what's that process look like?
I suppose it's, if you look at it, like in the next cycle of the Olympics, there's going to be kids that didn't know that there wasn't skateboarding in the Olympics when they were born.
Yeah. That's
in the
interesting.
Next cycle.
Because one of the prompts over there says cycles. That's like one of the things is like how many cycles before these kids, Olympic cycles, so 4-year blocks.
Oh, in the next one.
So it's already
in the next one.
Close.
There's kids that have grown up now that are 3 or 4 years old that are skating right now that know that Keegan Palmer won a gold medal.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think how quickly it'll be.
Taking a core skateboarder like that has that ability and you're now labeling them not a skater, an athlete is something that I still struggle with because I'm a skateboarder too. And when I grew up skating, we were the little shits that weren't allowed to. Like there was no pathway.
No,
you were the left of center.
Bags.
You were the rat bag. Yeah.
100%.
So to then say that it's now looked at like it's a premier amazing sport is crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. But at the same time, the things that now like these skaters have access to, how many people, or you've probably done it yourself, but how many people do you know, skaters that have had major injuries and never even went to a doctor or a physio? So the first thing that these skaters get to do is free doctor, healthcare, physio. Like we have, if someone hits their head, we have concussion protocol to keep them safe.
Yeah, right.
So it's longevity with this. Yeah. And like, not only that is to try and, it is a little bit of a selling, you've got to kind of sell it to them and be like, look, this is the potential to open up other doors.
Yeah.
So it's not just, and I will say this, and I'll be the first to say this, the Olympics is not everything.
No.
But it is also an opportunity. Absolutely. That should not be, if you are involved in competitive skateboarding and you're good at it, you'd be silly not to try.
Why not?
Because it's gonna give you an opportunity to see the world.
Well, the exposure is phenomenal too.
Yeah.
Like nothing that skateboarding as a culture could ever give you. That
every single time the skaters that I know used to go and get in the van with the team, they would come back better.
Yeah.
These trips are like that on steroids because they have every single amazing skateboarder in the world, or not everyone, but all of the best competitive skateboarders in the world, all at the one area. The kids that are in the team would compete, go back to the practice area, and literally come up to me and go, look, I just learnt switch heel front boards. Like, I'm like, what? In a practice area. Yeah. And so
Crazy.
It is creating more opportunity for them in the long run.
So do you see them as athletes though?
I talk to them as skateboarders and work with them as athletes.
Right.
So what does those trips away look like in compared to a skate trip that's in a van? Like, how is it? Like, they're
There's
athletes.
doctors, for starters. There's
Like,
concussion protocols.
Are they going to the gym? Is there training programs? Like,
Yeah,
what's
so,
the deal?
Over a normal skate trip is you jump in the van.
Raucous.
You don't know where you're going. You might have minimal sleep. You're eating out of servos or fast food, or it's a lot more structured to help them be the best when they need to be.
Yeah.
So part of my role is to, like, they still go street skating. We'll just make sure that we do it at a somewhat relatively safe scenario until they've competed. And then, because on those trips, if you think about what those trips would entail, normally the core of skateboarding still looks at it like, we don't get any value from this.
Sure.
But the conversations that I have with these skaters is, hey, you have to be multifaceted. You have to, when you're away, you need to play the part for your sponsors. So if that means we go and we film a couple of clips that you can then post and be like, I'm in Switzerland, and like, look at the backdrop and like doing this trick on this obstacle. It's their street skating, but then they have their competition as well. As it means it's completely different to being in the van, in the way that we're trying to provide them with every opportunity for them to be as fresh by the last day rather than as wilted down as they can by the last day.
Yeah, barely
Is there
able to get out
still
of
that
the van.
culture behind the scenes of drinking and?
Yeah, so there is that. That's part of the skate culture.
Yeah.
It will be like that until everyone realizes that there is a time frame in which that will last. You can't continue to push yourself like that and perform at your highest potential over a 4-year period and expect you to continue to be okay at the end.
So do you think that'll wash out in a cycle or two where, like, I mean, the Japanese guys, surely they're not partying like some of the older guys that have sort of dragged into this?
One of the girls who's I had a conversation with her in Switzerland, and she was like, her exact conversation was, I love beer, but I'm not allowed to drink it.
Right. So they've completely.
Well, yeah, like, I mean, there's rules on tour where, particularly the Australian rules are you're not supposed to drink.
Right.
And that is just when you're on tour with the team, it's just that's the rule that, and it was actually the skaters that actually did that
really?
At the start. Yeah. So they kind of
to put their own rules on themselves.
yeah. But yeah, it is somewhat changing. Like, it's even changed from when I first started over a year ago to now, because we're actually in the middle of this building Team Australia.
Yeah. Right.
So it's not, in the last cycle, COVID was there. It wasn't a real full 4-year period where people weren't allowed to travel. There was not a lot of competitions.
Sure.
So now we're actually building that Team Australia culture piece as we go.
Yeah. Right.
So there's a lot that's being done in the background, and it's exciting to be part of it, but at the same time, it's exhausting too, because I sometimes feel like I have to defend the position of what it is that I'm trying to do. But at the end of the day, it is solely to grow skateboarding.
Sure.
Yeah.
So to give everyone more opportunity, if there's more kids that are seeing it, there's going to be more kids doing it. And if that means that there's more kids doing it, it means more sales to the local shops. It means more skate parks for the kids to skate at. It means more opportunity for the market to grow, and that means more opportunities for the kids that are in the program to travel and
So how do you deal with the people outside of skateboarding and the Olympics, like all the administration, the people that you have to talk to?
Who do you, like the ones you answer to, I guess?
Yeah.
They'd have no idea about skateboarding as a culture.
No, you know what though? They're trying. So they're trying to understand it. It's interesting. It's an interesting point, because at the very beginning I felt like I was saying the same thing over and over again and getting like just this blank look, like, what are you talking about? And for an Olympics, there's the old system that has been set in place from, we're going to call it like the old sports. So like the sports with that long lineage,
Sure.
the
Athletics,
ones that,
swimming.
athletics, swimming, like all those things. So all of those sports have set up these like pathways that kind of can predict a athlete's journey, I suppose, and how they are going to track towards Olympic greatness, say, whatever. But when you look at that with skateboarding, that is completely out the window, because if someone learns a trick that no one else can do, they can win as a 13-year-old girl.
Sure. Like last time.
Or a 45-year-old male.
Yeah.
They have equal opportunity if they can do something that no one else can do.
Yeah. Right.
So when we're talking about what that pathway looks like, for someone, there's kids right now that are skating that might qualify for the next Olympics that right now cannot do a single trick that the kids that are doing right now are doing. That is in 4 years, they could get that good.
Yeah.
They could get that good. And we saw it with little Chloe Cavell, who's now our leader of our, essentially the somewhat program, because she's gone from being like, you know, a young girl that could skate switch, just like on flat ground, to then being able to do it down the biggest stuff that there is at contests, winning XLS and winning X Games, and, you know, getting second in 2 World Skate events already. You know, like, she's doing things.
How old's Chloe now?
She's 13.
It's so crazy, isn't it?
And this is not a word of a lie. My first ever World Skate event that I went to in Rome with the whole team, I was there with Liv, and Chloe was there too. She was playing with tech decks with me in between her competition.
Far out.
Like, she's
little kid.
She was a kid, yeah.
Little kids.
And she's now, you see her now, and like, I know Tommy won't.
Mind you, just said she was playing with tech decks with me.
Yeah. Because
You're
like,
not a...
but part of my role too is to make sure that we're connecting with them, and
sure.
and like if that means like,
hey, there's no shame in playing.
I have
tech
my
decks.
kids. I've got 3 kids of my own, so playing with tech decks with Levi is like a normal.
It's just
thing.
a normal
Yeah.
daily event.
Yeah, I can only do like 2 or 3 tricks, but
when you can't take him skating.
no, yeah,
Just
Skating on the table.
exactly. Yeah, but yeah, like
Hilarious.
with that, it's like that whole how long it takes. It's so what the old sports have realized is that skateboarding is standalone. That old system of like, it takes 4 years for these athletes to go from like this point to then being a podium threat is not real. With skating, it's completely different.
It's really interesting. Like, you think about, it entered the Olympics at the same time as surfing, but surfing was so much more structured in a competition sense going in. We had street league, and maybe the Vans bowl thing. We just didn't have this structured event thing, and all of a sudden it's at the Olympics. It was a crazy fast introduction to like extremely high level competition.
Yeah,
Skateboard, it looked like a bro down at the first Olympics, which I hope it sort of maintains some of that going forward. But realistically, will it? Do you think? Yeah,
I mean, look, when we go to these events, all the skaters are still like everyone is sitting together. Everyone is cheering for each other. It has not got segregated yet. There's no like kind of secret like people are talking about secret things that are being developed in the background. Like it has kept its core, which for me, that is the best part.
For sure.
It's the best part because it's a big skateboarding family at the end of the day. And so...
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's not happening in those old sports, right? I'm guessing all the runners don't hang out.
No.
They'd all be arch enemies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing too. It doesn't have, like, I don't know, there might be some rivalries, but it doesn't have the villains and stuff in skateboarding.
Not yet.
They'll
come. They'll come.
Wait and see. Watch this space.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's funny. There's Jez, before we came up, I spoke to Jez. I was like, what questions would you ask, Beau? And Jez is someone, he works for us at Borders and he watches everything. He was watching the qualifiers from Switzerland today. He was like, come look at this Aoki trick, dude. He's like, I don't even know what it is. Like he was blown away. And he talks about, he watches SLS, he watches the qualifiers, he watches everything. He's a core skateboarder, but he watches everything.
Yeah.
And he was like, can you ask Beau how long it's going to be before the Japanese guys aren't winning everything? That was his question for you. And I'm like, it's probably a pretty good question. There's probably 5 of the top 10 guys in the world right now. And girls.
Yeah.
Are
so the only area that they're kind of lacking in is maybe the bowl.
Yeah, the vert
and
stuff.
So they, for sure, they are the leader in, and they're a leader in not only the skateboarding area, but the way that they look like they all interact. Now, maybe it's part of their culture piece of their culture of Japanese people, but they respect each other. They cheer for each other.
Yeah.
They never look like they are sour.
No.
That's
Japanese people.
For sure.
Yeah. And so with that, like there is, it does seem as though like I'm surprised as well whenever they don't win.
Yeah,
because they win practice.
Yeah, right.
They win practice every time.
Yeah.
You know, there might be the odd person like Tommy, Tommy Finn, who's in our team. He had one crazy practice where he just could not fall off his board, and he's got such good style. And then Shane had another practice where he was unbelievable. But again, the majority of these practices are owned by the Japanese.
Yeah,
and
they look incredible.
You can see Niger and all of the old dogs that have kind of owned that space. You can tell that they're a little bit nervous and or surprised if they win. Because guys like Jagger and guys like Niger, like they're being headhunted by the Japanese.
100%.
Yeah.
And the Japanese guys are starting to film street parts that are mind-boggling too. This is not just in the past.
It's almost like, I kind of looked at it like this. It almost looks like what they did, and Yuto's he was the start. It looked like he looked at, well, what are people not doing?
Yeah.
This is what we're going to focus on. And we'll put a good 2 years of time into doing all of these awkward tricks that we know take time.
Yeah.
And we'll do all of these and we'll unveil them. And then they're going to have to give us scores.
Yeah, they can't not.
They're
no
doing
one else
tricks
is doing
right now
it.
that they don't even know what to call it.
Yeah, man. I watched
There's like the U-Tornado thing that just came out, and I'm like,
the
what?
U-Tornado. Yeah, I watch it now and I'm like, I don't know what just happened.
Yeah.
I can't call tricks anymore. We'll slow-mo them and figure out what just actually happened. What did the board just do?
Yeah.
You can't even tell when guys are riding switch anymore. It's getting crazy.
Yeah.
It has like leveled up massively.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. To Jez, like, it won't surprise me if it's 1, 2, and 3 at the Olympics, both men's and women's in street.
But in bowl, different story.
In bowl, it is different. I don't know. Maybe it's that they don't have the structure around all the facilities around that for them.
58 mil wheels.
I don't know. Have you guys seen what they do in training? Like in training, they have these guys in dojos, and they're like they're doing it like as if they're martial arts.
Yeah,
and like that whole like respect of your elders, do the repetition, like get this technique dialed. That's literally what they're doing. And so it's no surprise that they can do everything perfect, flip on or varial on. Like, it doesn't matter. To every single time they've got their board in exactly the same place because the repetition is just over and over
Their
again.
culture lends well to, like, if you look at sumo, the whole sumo thing's a dojo style thing. All the martial arts are dojo style.
Yeah.
Their culture is incredibly respectful.
Yeah.
And they will just push themselves to the limit.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how long before the Chinese start banging out robot skateboarders too.
Yeah, you know what? So I'm friends with the Chinese teams hire other different coaches from everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? They hire different coaches from everywhere. They bring these coaches in, but they force the skaters into the training scenario without giving them a choice.
Yeah,
Whereas with the Japanese, they are respectful, but they also have a choice.
They want to be there.
They want to be there.
Absolutely.
So the difference is, like, no matter what, you guys know this, that skateboarding is so difficult that if you don't love it, you are not going to want to do it.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that with some of the girls that they're doing tricks in practice, and I sometimes genuinely don't believe that they should be doing those tricks because they haven't even learned how to fall. They have crash mats there in practice, in training, but then they go and throw themselves into a trick, but then miss their truck, and then they act as if they're going to land on a crash mat and they just hit the ground.
Yeah, right.
And so that is like, the progression will continue to happen, but you're also they're going to get broken humans in the process that are not going to want to do it.
Yeah, right. That's not.
No,
ideal.
that's not what that's not what you want out of skateboarding either. But who knows? They might be like creating them in a somewhere over in China right now, where they're just being like,
they've got enough
ex-gymnast kids that are just like,
One of Jez's other questions was, of all the places that you've been so far, when you leave the course, the Olympic style setup, which area or which place that you've been has had the best skate culture?
they've all been amazing. Like, that's the thing about these world skate events. We're going to different places.
So they're putting them in the right places, do you think?
Well, they're putting them, without sounding like I'm ratting on World Skate, it costs a extreme amount of money to run one of these events.
I would imagine, yeah.
And so they're choosing countries that have that backing, financial backing.
Switzerland.
So we've been to the UAE, which has got very little skate culture, but an amazing skate park.
Yeah, I bet.
And again, they've got money.
Oil money.
We've been to Argentina. We've been to Switzerland. We've been to Rome twice. We've been to, I'm going back to Rome on Thursday. We're then going to Japan, back to the UAE. We're going to China later in the year. But I would say the place that had the best skate culture was probably the Switzerland one.
Really?
They had an old museum from when they used to run it was the first ever skate contest in Europe, was in Lausanne in Switzerland.
Yeah, right.
And so we went to this museum and like checked out, I got to see all these old photos from back in the day. It was incredible. And the culture, like, people came, obviously, you know how good the train system is in Europe. People came from everywhere to that event in Lausanne. Like,
how long ago was that?
The event?
Yeah.
We just got back.
The recent one, no, the original one.
I think it was in the 70s.
70s.
Yeah. I'll try and
before my time, everyone.
I'll try and dig it. I'll try and dig up exactly when it was, but it was incredible. Yeah. Like, they just showed I think, and that's part of the reason why they wanted it in Lausanne, was, and I mean, to be honest, all of Europe has such amazing spots. Yeah. I mean, Rome was great too. It's obviously a high tourist destination, but the spots in Rome are amazing too.
Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of travel.
Yeah, it's a lot of travel.
Do you skate before and after when you're there, or like how long do you spend traveling?
Yeah, so actually once the contest starts, I don't actually get to skate a lot. So I I get to skate in the first couple of days when we first get there, go street skating, go check out any other local parks, but I don't actually get to skate the parks that they have for the contest.
Yeah,
That was another Jez question.
Which, yeah, that's so
You get to skate
we've
these
actually
shots.
we voted multiple times to ask if the coaches were allowed to skate, because as a coach, if I understand that I'm asking someone, like I don't even get to roll up to obstacles, let alone even step foot on the course. I get to look at it from the side and then the skaters get to check it out. But a lot of it is you're kind of shooting blind a little bit at the contest. But I always I have these things that I try and do to keep myself sane. Like I'm a skateboarder too. So every day that I'm away, I have a few things. I've got to I have to go for a little roll. I've got to call my kids, and I've got to make sure that I do some kind of journal or mindfulness just to keep myself okay while I'm away. They're 2-week trips, and there's a lot of emotional energy used. So I really try to be present for all of the skaters and their needs. So I get to the end of the day, and some of the days are 12 to 14 hours, and I'm absolutely shot. So I try to get to roll at least in the morning every day, but my legs aren't too good at 7 o'clock in the morning before I start. So
how do you go then not being able to skate the course? How do you get around that obstacle of telling the skaters what to do and how to do it when you're not actually allowed to roll on it?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a hard one too. I think that it comes down to trust. So the amount of time it's much harder if I haven't had the lead up time with the skaters. So depending on who it is, I know that the amount of time I work with Liv, say, I could suggest something and she will know straight away whether my suggestion is, oh, that's idiotic and there's no way I'll be able to do it, or, oh, yep, great suggestion, I'll have a look at it.
Yeah.
So if there's the lead up time and preparation time with any skater is the key to being able to go there and without hesitation perform the hardest, scariest things that they can.
Yeah.
So if they don't prepare, that's when they will hesitate or have that fear attached to it. So, it comes down to me having complete trust with that skater. So if I've spent enough time with them and I've done the lead up work with them, I know that I could go there and suggest their hardest trick. Because sometimes you literally, if in the best trick part, we might get 2 minutes, maybe 3 in between. If there's an ad break, we'll probably get 3. But we get 2 or 3 minutes in between best trick tries to then help them suggest the right thing to help them progress. And that can be, that means that they might get 1 or 2 tries to try their hardest, most scariest stuff on something that they've barely skated. So it comes down to the amount of time that they've spent on that hard stuff to then know that confidence-wise, I know that if I could roll up to it the right speed, that that they could get onto that obstacle, and you just have to help them trust that.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones that don't, it's no joke. They end up in hospital.
Yeah.
And so, trust is the biggest thing. For sure.
How does it, from the perspective of each athlete, I presume a few of them have their own coaches, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're not managing from a 13-year-old girl to, I mean, some of the dudes are 30 plus, right? Shane and Tommy, those guys aren't young anymore.
Yeah.
But are they even got coaches anymore, or are they just sort of doing their own thing?
It comes down to so for Australia, we have there's 2 coaches, Will Stoyles and myself. Yeah. And then Kat Williams, who is an ex-female pro, she is in the AW&E space. So she's looks after kind of that well-being and anything that is kind of off the board as well. But she also helps with coaching as well with some of the female skaters. Yeah. So when we go to an event, because they've made it athlete-led in this space, anyone that has their own coach will go, they can go direct to them. But then as a Australian coach, I will also liaise with them and say, hey, is there anything you need?
Right.
Let me know if you need anything. So although I might not be coaching all of the athletes, I'm also overseeing it to make sure they're okay and that they have what they need. So from what people need though is the needs of like one of the young 12, 13-year-olds is going to be completely different to a Tommy or a Shane.
Sure. Of course.
So and that then comes down to, I remember I spoke to my boss and I sort of said like that, she was like, oh, how are you going with this? How are you feeling? And I literally said to her, I feel like I'm a chameleon because every single day that I'm at an event, or not even at an event, on a camp, I will be talking to, say, Chloe, but then talking to Haley, but then talking to Liv, but then talking to Rome and Tommy and Shane and all in between. And then the park skaters too, which they're a different type of people.
Sure.
Each of those requires something a little bit different from me. So I need to make sure that I tap into the type of language that they like to use and the way that I connect with them. And the ones
sounds like selling shit in a shop, man.
Yeah.
Switch from the truck driver to the doctor.
It is,
and try not to offend anyone.
Yeah, but in that too, I love that it challenges me to create that connection. But it's when the hardest I work is when I don't know the athlete.
Right.
Because I'm constantly thinking about what do I need to say here rather than just reacting to the situation in a very clear, calm way. I'm having to think about the right words.
How do you get through to them
Exactly.
as an individual?
And we're talking about like that 2 to 3 minute window, right?
Yeah.
So in that 2 to 3 minute window, you've sometimes got to calm them down, help them refocus, explain to them the trick that they then have to do or any adjustment to a run that they have to do, and then send them back out onto the course with that confidence to then drop in and go for it.
Yeah.
And you don't get a lot of time to hesitate. If you hesitate, the kind of moments pass. So it is quite tricky, but I think I'm getting better at it because I've had a lot of experience at it from this year. But come the Olympics, I know that it'll probably be a whole nother level of like strict with who's allowed where and, blockades with there'll be no parents or like all this stuff, and the athletes will be separate. And so
I remember.
Sorry, go on.
I remember you told me a story about, and I remember it because how you dealt with it was really cool, about one of the athletes asking to borrow your board or truck or something, and then the person who you answer to not liking that situation or something. And then, I'll let you tell the story because it was really cool.
Yeah, look, it was so in Argentina, one of the females which was warming up in the practice area, just did a tray flip on flat, broke a truck. Like, I think I've broken one truck in my whole skateboarding life.
It's hard to break trucks.
And like, it broke. Anyway, I think she used Thunders, mine are Indies, and like, I was like, she had like 5 minutes. And I'm like, 100%, I've got my board here, you're good. And I remember just trying to, like, I personally would have been like, oh my God, this sucks. I've got to use
someone else's board.
I just spoke to her about like being able to like pretend that it's a little bit of a challenge. You're going to figure it out and it's okay. Like, you've got this kind of little bit of a Frankenstein board, but it's fine. You'll be good. She ended up getting 28th in the whole contest overall with everyone. So did really well, skated with my truck the whole time. But the little bit about not wanting to, her, like my boss not wanting me to, like, so there was a street spot that I wanted to skate, and I saw that we had a window in between the contest, and I was like, right, that Friday afternoon that the contest finishes early, that's my window to go and get this trick on the street spot. So I was like, oh, do you mind if I like get my truck back just to do this trick? And then she was like, no, that's fine. And the boss, the person that was there didn't want me to go to skate this spot. And I was like, I remember saying to her, like, if I don't do this, like, how can I ever ask this of these skaters to do something that scares them?
Yeah.
And the trick was like, I was going to like kind of tail drop off a bridge into this big bank that went onto a road, and it was a highway, and it was all kind of scary. But our team physio came, Kat came as the filmer. The physio was like also filming, but he was like watching the cars. It was like all
skateboarding.
It was skateboarding. Yeah. And like when I came back, I had like, I've still got a little bit of a scar. But I had like got like shit whipped onto the road, and blood was kind of everywhere. But then I came back, and I actually said to them, like, I gave the truck back to the girls, so then it was fine. But I remember saying to my the person that was there with us, like, who was like kind of our acting team manager, like, this is actually who I am, and if I don't do this, I'm not going to feel like me, which means that I can't be everything of me for them. And that's how I explained it to them. And she kind of went, okay, yeah, I get it. I mean, I haven't released the footage yet, but it's pretty, the slam one's pretty gnarly.
Did you make it?
Yeah, I made it.
Yeah. That's all it matters.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have told the story.
I wouldn't have told the story.
I was like, oh, have I just dug you in a hole?
No. I made the trick, so it's all
That's
good.
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 Oh, awesome. Yeah. I reckon we covered all the Olympic questions. I'm really stoked. So that was awesome.
In the position you're in and having a young skater, Levi.
We've got to get you and Levi in.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you go being his dad and being like not bringing your work into like coaching
just as a
him
little
in life?
Fill in for everyone. Levi, Beau's son, is like the ultimate little skate rat. He just lives and breathes it. But yeah.
I mean, look, to be honest, like I'm petrified of being one of those parents that's super pushy. So I just don't.
You're the opposite.
Yeah, so I just don't. And so
he pushes you.
I go skating with him, and I try and share the same things that I was taught with him. I try and share those with him so that he grows up to have that honest, true love of what it is that he's doing. We spoke before about, you know, some of the Chinese that may not love that. He loves every little bit of it.
Yeah,
so for me, I'm grateful that he's got the opportunity to see what I do. He writes me a letter every single trip and puts it in my bag. And it's always, there's a drawing of us skating, and he writes how much he misses me. But he also understands why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I genuinely believe that I can make a difference to these kids and to this program. And so he understands that. We did get to do a pretty amazing trip earlier this year, and there was a little bit of work in there, but he got to come with me and took him to Woodward, and it was incredible. But it's good. If he decides that that's what he would like to do. I mean, he's pretty into filming at the moment, so he might just want to film. He skates like, we've got a little front area at our place, and he came in this morning. He's like, Dad, I learned front feebles on the rail. Like sitting on my computer. I was like, cool, mate. Like, just every day there's something new. So it's cool. It's super cool. I've got a skate buddy. Like,
awesome. Couldn't be a better situation.
Yeah. But I think what you've done with Levi is awesome, where you've let him skate with all the older crew that you grew up skating with. And
they take him skating when I'm away, and I've been away a lot. So I'm grateful, you know, like Lewis,
they're always
Jazz,
dropping in. Jazza drops in.
Yeah.
Got to get some bearings for Levi.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm so grateful of the community that have taken him in, because I'm not always there, and it's easy to, you know, help provide that platform for someone if you're there the whole time. But he's 8.
Yeah.
And I'm not there all the time. So that weighs on me a lot because I miss my kids like massively, but it's also it's building something that I hopefully one day will look back and be proud of.
And I think they'll be proud of you too.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
100%.
Yeah, you haven't joined the Navy. It's not like you're away for 7 months at a time. I think what you're doing, they'll be really proud of you one day. I think you're the best guy for the job, to be honest. I used to call you the skate whisperer. I'm not sure if I coined that or someone told me that. But I used to once live in the X Games, and I think you said something to her, and she ended up finishing 8th at the X Games or whatever. But
yeah, she was 14.
Yeah, she was a kid, and she used to get inside her own head, and I was like, I was like the skate whisperer, man, to get her to be able to go compete. It was like crazy at the time. So I genuinely believe you're the right guy for the job.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
And thanks heaps for coming in today.
No worries.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much.
Thank
That's a wrap.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.